Hey guys, what's up? This is Force of Force StarCraft 2 Strategy and Discussion, your number one location for step-by-step strategy and tutorial videos. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Protoss strategy. This is Void Ray and Phoenix play versus Zerg. So this is a good strategy that works very well versus Zerg opponents. A second note to this strategy is that it's going to work mostly on large maps or maps where the rush distance is very, very long. Now, on this map here, as you can see, in order to get Zerglings or any sort of early game rush to the other base, you have to go all the way around and to the front of the base, which is here. So very long rush distance, very difficult to pull off a rush as Zerg on a map like this. So this is kind of an ideal map to play it, or even on a four-person map, one of the larger four-person maps, this strategy would also work very well. So again, this is going to be Void Ray and Phoenix play. And now basically how this strategy works and how it's effective is Void Rays obviously can do massive damage once ramped up. Getting Phoenixes as well is going to allow you to lift off any Queens or maybe Hydralisks that your opponent may have when you get to their base. Phoenixes are also going to help counter any Mutalisks that you may be seeing. So actually in this build here, in this specific game, the Zerg opponent does go for fast Mutalisks, and we're able to counter that with our Phoenixes and Void Rays. So just taking a look at strategy and build order here. As far as build order, it's going to be a 14 gate variant. So what we're going to be doing is we drop our first pylon at about 9 supply, our second pylon at like 12 supply, and then at 14 supply we're going to get our first gateway. So that is a little bit delayed, but again, we're not going to be rushing. We don't need the fast zealots. As long as we get what we're going to be doing is actually blocking this off by getting a forge here and then building some cannons. This is really going to help ward off any early game aggression that we could get. It's going to leave us relatively safe inside of our base. Now people may say, well, what happens if the Zerg player decides to Baneling bust and just break through your front wall and you have nothing? Well, the good thing about this setup that we're going to be seeing here is that with this positioning, you could put another gateway here and a gateway right here as well. Our photon cannons are actually going to be sitting in this position. So if you saw a Baneling bust coming and you dropped two gateways, the first wave wouldn't be successful into breaking into your base. And by the time that happens, you're going to have your Void Rays and Phoenixes up. And if you get your Void Rays and Phoenixes up for someone who's trying to Baneling bust you before they break into your base, it's pretty much game over. So taking a look here again, we were at 9 first pylon, 12 second pylon, then 14 gateway, 15 we get our forge. Now at 19 we start building our cybernetics core. Also before the cybernetics core, after the forge, before we build our cybernetics core, we're going to get our 2 assimilators, and we want to get those both fully saturated. We're going to need a lot of Vespian with this build. So again, it's Forge 15, 2 assimilators, then Cybernetics core. Now keep in mind something to note, throughout this whole process you should constantly be building probes, and you never want more than 1 or 2 probes in queue, because you want to use those excess minerals to build these structures here. So you never want to have just 5 probes queued up. It's completely pointless and a waste of minerals, because by the time you get to the second, third, fourth, or fifth probe, you could have had the minerals to make it anyways, and you could have used those minerals earlier to start building your structures. So I'm going to actually back this up real quick here to get a look at the Stargate timing. So it's basically once we have enough Vespian is when we drop our first Stargate. Here it appeared to be around 23 supply. We're also going to be using our excess minerals that we're getting from all of these probes that we have mining to build our 2 cannons right as soon as we start building our first Stargate. Now these 2 cannons are going to be what helps ward off any early game pressure that you could be getting. Now people say, well, what if they hit you earlier? If they did hit you earlier, you could drop cannons in, but before they managed to break down this forge, and you would be safe in that aspect anyways. So yeah, I mean, with proper scouting and just proper execution of this build, it can be very effective. So we're going to be getting our second Stargate again once we have the Vespian, which appeared to be around 24 supply. And now as soon as this first Stargate pops, we're going to be getting our Void Ray, and we're going to be chrono boosting that as well. Another note that I hadn't mentioned was that once you first start building your first Stargate, you want to stop using your chrono boost on your probes. and you want to save the chrono boost for your Void Ray. Now taking a look here at the Zerg opponent, he has upgraded to layer tech. He's got that second hatchery for that extra larva. In addition, he just has this first spire out. With his Overlord, he did see that we walled ourselves in with this. He wasn't too worried about any early aggression. Had we done anything, he did have these Zerglings. So he's going for a fairly fast spire. I'm not sure if I agree with this hatchery placement. I really feel like it would have been a little bit better had he expanded. That way he could have got the extra Vespian. But he still should be in a pretty decent position here. Very shortly he'll be pumping out some Mutalisks. However, with this build, again, on larger maps, this is going to be most successful on larger maps. It's going to be harder on smaller maps where the aggression early game can be much stronger. But on these larger maps, these Void Rays coupled with the Phoenixes that we're going to be getting out are going to be very strong versus anything that Zerg could have at this point. The Phoenixes could lift up any queens that he has that are trying to ward off the Void Rays, and Void Rays plus Phoenixes are very good in anti-air, especially in the smaller numbers. That's where they're going to succeed. So first these 4 Mutalisks, these 2 Void Rays, and this 1 Phoenix are going to have no problem. Moved out a little prematurely. Apparently the Protoss player did not see these Mutalisks coming up, but it's no big deal. As you can see, they're going to have no problem taking him out. Mutalisks are going to have to back up in this engagement. They're not going to be able to handle it. As you see, we also have a second Void Ray and another third Void Ray and a second Phoenix coming out right now. It's at that point that we're going to hit. Had we gone much earlier, we would have had to deal with queens, and a couple of queens can do a lot of damage to these Void Rays. So you really want to make sure that you have at least that second Phoenix to help lift off any queens, or even if you had some Hydralisks, that could be very detrimental to you. Good thing we're having these bases rallied right to our opponent's base, or right outside of our opponent's base. So as soon as they pop up, they'll be right next to us. There we go, ready for command. Pushing forward against these Mutalisks. Again, these Mutalisks aren't going to do much versus these 2 Phoenixes and these 3 Void Rays. A little too much for them to handle. And we're going to be pushing forward now. The Zerg player is going for a little bit of a counterattack with the Zerglings, and again, we have these 2 photon cannons up here defending this choke that we have, or this wall off. So those Zerglings aren't going to do much of anything. Taking a look back here at the base, we're going to be going with an engagement. Void Rays trying to take out this extractor, stop them from getting any more gas so that they can't make any more Mutalisks. And then this engagement here is not going to go very well for these Mutalisks, especially with these Void Rays powered up. Now these queens, however, can do a lot of damage to the Void Rays. They actually did manage to take one out. However, with the Graviton Beam lifting up these queens, there's not too much they're going to be doing at that point. And once those 2 queens are gone, we have no more in production. We only have 1 Mutalisk left, and that's pretty much good game. The Zerg player's out of luck here, not much he can do, so he's probably going to go ahead and leave. I'm not sure if he good games in this or not. I can't imagine he would, because he seems... I would imagine he'd be pretty frustrated at this point. Another Graviton Beam on the Queen, and that alone is frustrating enough to quit a game. So again, just taking a look here at the build order, the basic strategy and how this works. Going with the 9 pylon, then a 12 pylon into 14 gateway, followed by 15 forge. After that, you want to get your 2 assimilators. Again, this is a very gas-intensive build. Saturate those with 3 probes each. Go for your cybernetics core. Then as soon as you have the gas, you want to go ahead and drop your first Stargate. Shortly thereafter, you're going to be dropping 2 cannons at the front of your base to help defend. And then after that, get your second Stargate and just start pumping out Void Rays and Phoenixes with some chrono boost. And that should be a pretty good counter to anything Zerg could have at this point. The only other situation I could really think of would be, aside from that Baneling Bust, which again I told you how to prevent by building more gateways behind this to complete the wall off, even if they busted through that front. Besides the Baneling Bust, the only other thing that I could think of that he'd be able to do is get some Hydralisks, but with 3 or 4 Phoenixes with Graviton Beam, that should take out most of the Hydralisks he has, especially if these Void Rays get powered up. It's just going to be too much damage for them to handle. So again, guys, this has been 4 StarCraft 2 strategy. Please stay tuned for future videos. Keep watching and keep owning.